Hello, it's only me, Claire Baker, former clutterholic and borderline hoarder, realising that I haven't done a garden tour for a long time. It might even be years. So I thought I would just do a quick garden tour update for those of you who have seen my previous garden tours, because quite a lot has changed over the last couple of years, and this is my happy place. This is where I spend a lot of time between doing things on my to-do list and as part of my rewards. This is definitely my happy place where I can sit, have a cup of tea, watch the cats, watch the birds, and do not very much. So starting here nearest the house on our patio, and this year we have tomatoes, which have worked really well. This is a real sun trap on this patio. I have had a tomato, I think they call it blossom rot, where they go black on the underside. Oh, that one isn't. Let's fingers crossed that one's okay. Could be something to do with the fact that I gave them tomato feed, and I thought the instructions said 2 cups of the feed in a watering can of water. Actually, it meant 2 drops. My eyesight is really going. So they basically got overfed, and that's presumably nitrates and things. So that could have caused a bit of a problem. Could have been self-inflicted. But they're doing really well this year, even though we haven't had amazing sunshine this year. The rose arch at this end is doing well with the jasmine, gorgeous smell as you go through, which is working really well. There are birds nesting in the corner of it, and our cats love to sit on the corner of the shed and watch the birds go in and out. They're quite frustrated. A couple of times they have tried to leap into the rose arch to get the birds and then found themselves stuck, so that's quite amusing to watch. But the birds love this as well, which is the bees love this as much as the bird, which is really important. It's really important to support the bees. Coming through the rose arch. So our bird bath didn't quite survive the winter. We had very cold snap here in the UK, and the edges came off, and we were all set to replace it. And then from the kitchen window, we saw the birds were quite happy in it, even though it's shallow water. They were still bathing themselves in it. So we thought, well, we'll just leave it then. If they're not bothered by the fact that the sides have broken off, we'll just leave it. So we have had many a happy time just watching them from the kitchen window. The bird table is new. We have one at both ends of the garden. My husband had to drill an extra hole so that it's extra small, because the pigeons and the starlings were just hoovering up all the food, not giving the small birds a chance. So we had to narrow the gap to give the small birds a chance of actually getting some of the food that we put out. We get through a lot of bird food in this house every month. Coming through our wedding tree, as we call it, our apple tree. Got a lot of apples on it this year. I have tried to thin them out so that the individual ones get a bit juicier. We'll see what happens when it comes to harvest time. We've also got blueberry bushes this year. They're new. We eat a lot of blueberries and a lot of raspberries in this house. The raspberries aren't doing so great. They're on the 2 ends of that patch over there, but the blueberries seem to be doing okay for their first year in. We've got strawberries in the rain duct above as well. They've done quite well with the fruit hanging over the edge. Again, I will develop that next year. The crocosmia, I think they are called, are coming out nice. I'm not good with plant names, as you may know. I know what I know, but I don't know a lot. The central bed has had some lovely flowering plants. I should just say, actually, we are having a clean up in the garden this coming weekend, the August bank holiday weekend. So I know there are a lot of weeds around. To be honest, we don't micromanage the garden anyway, because of the nature. The bees, even the slugs and the snails, they need the vegetation. So having too tidy a garden isn't great. It is messy at the moment though, because like I say, we are going to be doing our big cleanup this weekend. Carrying on with the sentimentality in this garden, so that conifer there is in memory of our cat called Madam, who was put down just a few weeks before the first lockdown with the pandemic. She's doing very well. The reason why it's a conifer is because when she decided to move into our home with her sister Sissy, she appeared underneath a conifer that was just a few feet further down the garden. So it was appropriate to have a conifer in her memory. We did have a conifer for her sister Sissy, but that didn't do so well. It was in this position here. We replaced it this year with another apple tree. Can never have too many apple trees, and that's doing very, very well. So pleased with that. Here is another tree in memory of another cat. This is our Betty tree. My first ever cat, the cat that my husband looked after and made me realise, oh, maybe he is partner material if my cat loves him. It's a pear tree, conference pear tree, love conference pears. Not getting so much fruit on it this year though. It is interesting because in my first house I had an apple tree and a pear tree. They took it in turns to fruit. We're getting the same here. It's the apple tree this year that is fruiting most. Pear trees having a bit of a rest. But now that we have 2 apple trees and in fact 2 pear trees, it may be that we find that changes a bit. Coming through from the orchard area of the garden to the pond area, self-seeded sunflowers. I love just sprinkling some of the bird food with the sunflower seeds in and just see what comes up. And quite a lot has come up. They haven't flowered yet, but I think they're going to do quite well. And this is a major new addition over the last year. This is our grape fence. So in October last year, I asked my husband, can you put some posts in the garden for me, please? And put a washing line on it. And of course he looked at me strangely, but knew that, okay, no point asking questions. So we put the posts in, he put the washing line in, and it was also that the grapevine could grow along it, and so that the fruit could hang down. Done really, really well. All of this growth is just this year. It gets the sun pretty much all day when the sun is out, because in the morning it gets it on this side, in the afternoon it gets it on the other side. And if you come up and look closely, you can see we've got quite a few bunches of grapes already forming. Now I will do what the British TV gardener Monty Don does. He gets his nail clippers out and he thins the bunches of grapes. So he'll take every other one off. The reason being that if you have fewer grapes on there, then the ones that stay on there get much juicier. So I will be doing that this weekend. I'll be thinning my grapes. So I'm really pleased. It's done so well this year. Again, despite the fact that the weather hasn't been fantastic. Next year, when I've thinned out all of the strands ready for next year, again, it will be even better next year. If we turn around, we can see the pond, and the pond is doing particularly well. We have this lilac here, which is growing nice and big, and eventually will be as big as one we have nearer the house. The overgrowth is fantastic. This yellow bush, can't tell you what it's called, don't know. What's fabulous is that you can watch that bush and it shakes, and that tells you that there's a bird that's going down from the top to the bottom so that it can get a drink of water out of the pond. Love watching that, because I'm sure that in the hedge over there, there are birds' nests. So again, although it looks fairly unkempt, which it is, we've let it just go, the birds love it. Another new addition this year is a garden gnome sitting on the waterfall. Waterfall isn't working, unfortunately. That's why it's got something growing out of it at the moment. Again, that will all be cleaned up this weekend. That garden gnome, if we have a better look around here. So that garden gnome is called Simon. That is in memory of my brother who died last year, October 2022. He died of skin cancer, a very aggressive melanoma. So it's ironic that he has a garden gnome like that sitting in the sunshine. He gets the afternoon sun. Again, that needs to be cut back so he's not overgrown. But that's very much a pose that we associate with Simon. His wife said he used to sit in the garden. He wouldn't help with the gardening, but he would sit in the garden, snooze, and he was in charge of making the cups of tea. So again, it's an appropriate garden gnome for my brother. The lilies have gone mad on the pond. Very, very overgrown. I am going to have to, again, thin that out this weekend. We have had some, oh, there's a lily flower coming out underneath. Good protection, though, for the frogs and for the fish. So again, nature's doing what it needs to do. The frogs live underneath the decking and they come out here into the pond safely, despite the fact that one of our cats, Stanley, likes to go fishing at this side of the pond. To my knowledge, he's never caught anything, but he does like to come and stand here and see what activity there is underneath the lilies. And here comes Gatsby, our little bird catcher. May look cute and cuddly, but he does like going bird watching. And then finally, as we come up to the end of our garden, we have our Frank tree. So this was planted in 2016 in memory of my late father-in-law, Frank. I have a picture of him sitting at this end of the garden before it was all done, when it was literally mud, and he's sitting on the decking doing Sudoku. It's my favourite picture. I have it in my office so that I can look out the window and imagine him there. This is around the spot, level with the spot where that picture was taken. So we planted a tree in memory of Frank. Likewise, there is a seat here so that you can just sit with Frank and have a cup of tea while looking over the pond. Another bird table, very important to make sure the birds have got lots of food. There's fat balls behind in the magnolia tree, which is doing fantastically great, creates a great canopy from the sun in the morning. The bench there is the cat's bench. It's their park bench. We have a lot of cat furniture or child's furniture, I should say, for the cats. It's the perfect size. And we always have the umbrella up now. Again, having lost my brother last year because of skin cancer, it makes you just think twice about sitting out in the sun. I love the feeling of the heat on the skin, but at the same time, it's just not worth the risk. So we always put up the umbrella every morning. New bed with new plants, some salvias there, some crocosmia that I've moved, and some lavender. Again, it's not looking great at the moment because it's not long been put in. Next year, I'm sure it will be much more established. Finally, here are 3 sunflowers. So with Frank, my father-in-law, every year I used to give him 3 small sunflowers that I had grown in a pot. One represented him, one represented my husband, his son, and one represented me. And a couple of years, he claims that the pigeon or the squirrel beheaded the sunflower seeds that I had given him. I'm not sure I believe him. But I have planted 3 sunflowers here, again in memory of Frank, because it was kind of the thing that we used to do. And we have our second pear tree, which is planted in memory of my brother. So again, that will hopefully take off quite nicely. Oh, and Sissy's, our cat's old conifer that was planted at the same time as her sister's conifer that's doing okay. That's now in a pot because it didn't do great where it was. So a lot changing, again maturing. The garden is now, the majority of the garden is now 7 years old. A couple of the trees were planted before that, but it is very definitely my happy place. And this is where I sit every morning. just taking my time with a cup of tea, listening to my affirmations to get the best start to the day. The cats are usually around on the table, just watching the pond, watching the birds, and yeah, it's a great way to start your day and have as part of your morning routine. So that's the garden tour done. It may be a small garden, but there's a lot going on. The wildlife love it. We do have hedgehog poo on the decking just in the corner, just to prove it. We have foxes as well. And at the end of the day, for me, my priority is that the animals and the wildlife get to enjoy it too. So I hope you enjoyed the tour of the garden, and I shall update you again very soon. Take care.